Dave Yeager will move one seat over into the hot seat with a team that really, quite frankly, is still ripe for a lot of success. And so maintaining that defensive intensity that he obviously brought as an assistant coach. Each year they've gotten better there, but scoring has always been their greatest challenge.
Right.
So where can they find additional perimeter scoring to make them one step closer to the championship?
Matt Howard makes it a 5-point lead for the Bulls, but you bring up a good point because Memphis led the league, giving up only 89 points a game last year. Offensively, what a struggle. Only 93 a contest, 26th in the NBA out of 30 teams. And the travel. Brian Manning just came into the game. A young man, a native of London, 25-year-old. Matt Janning is coming in now for Chicago. So it's 51 seconds left in the first in a 5-point game. Turnovers and missed opportunities. That's the story early in this game. Brian Manning also playing his college basketball at the University of Washington. Bowers out of Missouri. He did that regularly for the Tigers in Columbia. Good looking shot.
Well, translating your game to the next level. Some league, a quick look at whether you're going to be able to do that among some of the peers that are trying to make it into the league as well.
Blue on the trail. It's Roten. And well defended. Exceptional job at the defensive end by Deion Thompson without committing the foul. We'll play for the final shot. Team 6 points and an assist so far, and it will stay at 6 points. That kind of is the story. So many opportunities so close for both Chicago and Memphis, but they could not take advantage of the situation. So a premium on offense over the next 3 quarters. Who can put it together at that end of the floor in a 2-point game between Memphis and Chicago? A mile from Cox Pavilion as we welcome you back on NBA TV. It's the Summer League edition for the Chicago Bulls and the Memphis Grizzlies. Memphis in the white jerseys. They've got the ball to start the second 10-minute session. And getting shut off, trying to get it inside, and a travel is called on Vander Blue. So another giveaway by the Grizzlies. Not as many turnovers as it seems because of the mistakes we've seen in the offensive end. Matt Janning working on the step back. It's Andy Routen. Andy Routen's from the New York Knickerbocker for a year. And we know his father very well, long time, and the national coach for the Canadian national team until recently.
That's right.
Broadcasted with the Toronto Raptors, and Andy can shoot. And we saw that, and he can handle the ball at Syracuse the way he did. And that's why he was taken in the draft by the New York Knicks. 38th overall in 2010. In fact, he won the 3-point shootout at the D-League Showcase this past season. He's got a foul. Big guard. Tall guy, not as tall as his dad, but a tall guy.
Well, big guards also have a challenge of moving their feet out on the perimeter. And as you saw there, and being really aggressive out on the, pressuring the basketball out on that point guard. But got a foul.
If you can score, you're going to get a look with Memphis. They are offensively challenged. They've got great stuff down on the block. We know that. There's a foul on a little dish inside. And free throws coming up. The opportunity. It'll be Janning on the foul. Matt Howard going to the free throw line. But we talked to the guys, the nucleus. Marc Gasol down on the block. Zach Randolph. Conley, he's your fixture with Tony Allen in the backcourt. Jared Bayless opted back in. Ed Davis, we both like. Only going to get better upside. But as we talk about that, we're not talking about guards that are threes that can really shoot a lot of perimeter shots that you talked about.
No, and you know, Poindexter, bright spot
right
on the bench there for the Grizzlies, but they're going to need to find a way to stretch the floor. And I know Coach Yeager, you know, he doesn't mind three-pointers, doesn't want to fall in love with them. It's much more attractive to have layups and free throws. Obviously, that's been their style. But they've led with defense. They're going to continue to play defense. But to stretch that floor and give Zach Randolph and Marc Gasol a little more room down there, it's going to require some shooting. So if you can show that you can fill it up here in Summer League, you're definitely going to get a bigger look.
Yeah, and the one thing you brought up that rings is the spacing on the floor. Good nifty move inside. And rolling it home is Gerald Robinson, the 24-year-old from Nashville. Played his college ball at Georgia. Here's the score for the Bulldogs. Averaged 15 a game a couple of years ago. Bowers trying to take it away. And Brian Manning throws it away due to the pressure. But Gerald Robinson creatively inside.
One of those big guys got to at least challenge. But he took care of his business by creating the penetration, getting into the paint there, and finishing.
We're just talking about what Memphis is looking for. Pondexter, as you mentioned, a guy who's increased his range since coming out of Washington, a Fresno native. A guy who can shoot the three. Bayless has, since he was the MVP 5 years ago, the Summer League, Bayless has definitely increased his range.
Yeah, you know, if you think back, and you were talking about this earlier, he was pretty much a slashing, attacking, get to the rim guard. And I think of the moments in the playoffs this year where some of the Memphis Grizzlies, their games, the easiest games they've had, Bayless really played extremely well from the perimeter and added some three-point shooting.
He's one of the reasons they got to the conference finals. Let's face it. A lot of people were surprised that he opted in to the final year of his contract because some felt his marketability now, with the way he played in the postseason, is extremely high. 2 minutes into the second quarter in a 2-point game, and Janney got a break. Looked like a turnover waiting to happen. Thomas on the jump hook, and Bowers defended it well. Bowers getting to it, and it's off the glass. Goaltending is called. So the call goes against the Chicago Bulls and Deion Thompson. Would it be a thrill for the young man who just put it off the glass and counted for Lawrence Bowers, because he played his college basketball at Missouri, but he is a native of Memphis, Tennessee.
Wouldn't it be nice to go home?
What a thrill it would be to get he was not drafted, just a fall camp invite. It'll stay. The Bulls have. And Marcus Teague, along with Tony Snell and Goudlock, the experienced one we talked about, are coming back into the game. Despite the fact they've got that experience working in the backcourt of Teague and Goudlock, it's a 4-point lead for the Grizzlies. And Bowers has 4 points off the bench since coming in just a couple of minutes ago.
Well, the tail of the first quarter was a few turnovers and poor shooting percentages. 27 for the Bulls, 31 for the Grizzlies, and now we're seeing a reverse. At least some of these shots are going down here in the second quarter, but the turnovers are coming up in pops.
That's a break on that pass. Looked like a turnover from Matt Howard. Bowers needs to know the range. We've talked about that. Goudlock all the way to the rack. So it started with a poor percentage look at the opposite end.
Sometimes a poor shot is worse than a turnover.
Stays in play. A lot of turnovers go to bounds.
Right.
Howard, good look. Online but strong. Here comes Marcus Teague. Nifty play. Lose Vanderblue, and he finds Malcolm Thomas. Sweet dive.
Well, I'm going to give a note to Snell for blocking out one of the bigger players there for the Grizzlies, because that started to break.
Created the space, and they were on their way. Malcolm Thomas, that's what he's there for. He's not an offensive guy for the most part, but can he ever defend the rim and jump out of the gym? Matt Howard knows it now. Deion Thompson couldn't get it. But how about the play of Teague? Now you see it, now you don't. Gone.
There you go.
So an easy one for Malcolm Thomas. 4 straight for the Bulls. And a good looking assist by Marcus Teague. Thomas, as I said, good closer to the rim. It's kind of like Bowers at the opposite end. Know your game. Tough pass and the turnover. Give it away by Gerald Robinson. Teague again. And Trader didn't quit on the play, did he? Outstanding play on the block from behind. It'll count if it goes. Ooh. Tough fall for Tony Roden, but Willie Reed made sure that Marcus Teague wasn't going to get another easy one next to the rim. Didn't quit on the play, did he? In transition from behind. And that's why we're still tied at 12. The makeup of that team. And I'm not talking about defensively, because that's the constant for them. As you see, they've got some nice role players off the bench besides their starting five and Taj Gibson, Kirk Heinrich, and now Mike Dunleavy taking over for Marco Bellinelli. But they have retooled that team each of the last 2 years when it comes to their bench.
Yeah, and it's been some nice additions, but you don't gain a lot of consistency and rhythm when you're year to year making type of changes that you would think a team in the case of the Bulls, who have been an Eastern Conference contender. Most teams that are contenders at that level have 8 or 9 guys that they've built and worked with for 3, 4, 5 years.
It's a constant rotation. Yeah, the constant continuity you're talking about, because last year the bench was Marco Bellinelli and Nate Robinson, first guy shooters off, and Rip Hamilton.
Right.
Well, they bought out Rip. Marco leaves. Nate Robinson still up in the air where he goes. 2 years ago, don't forget, their bench was Omer Asik, C.J. Watson, and Ronnie Brewer. They were all gone at the end of that season.
Right. And all guys, I'm sure Thibodeau really enjoyed having played for him. And so you get guys in your system. They're understanding how to execute. Team's doing well. I think Derrick Rose's injury obviously put a lot of bench players in positions of having to stretch their effectiveness, finding themselves in positions where they're having to deliver statistically or effectively, which really isn't in their game. So
it was a series of adjustments for that franchise. They pride themselves on defense with Tom. Yeah, first defensively 2 years ago, third in fewest points allowed last year. Cooley once again trying it from long range. Young man from Notre Dame. A little more than 5 to play. It's tied at 21. Both teams really struggling at this end of the floor offensively. Godlock. And finally one that looked like it was going to bounce back out, because he's had 2 go down and all the way out. And it's going to be a loose ball foul. Count the bucket. And also there'll be 1 free throw coming up. It'll be Malcolm Thomas going to the stripe. But finally it worked for Godlock.
Well, great setup by Snell. Pulled that rebound down, pushed it, got it to the guy who we know is a threat scoring-wise. That's what he does.